Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Thursday. Champions League is done and dusted for the week. I will get to that. I've got to talk about it. I know it's not Arsenal, but I've got to talk about last night's game. I will get to that a little bit at the end of this video. Europa League still to go tonight. A couple of English teams in action, Conference League as well. But we are getting towards the Premier League's return. And what is going to be a huge weekend. I say it every single time now, but what is going to be a huge weekend in the battle for the top four. Tottenham going to Liverpool Saturday evening. Arsenal hosting Leeds Sunday afternoon. If, and it's a big if, we certainly know that the way this season has gone, if things go to plan or go to on paper, as they say in football, then Arsenal could well open up a 5-point lead over Spurs ahead of that North London derby, which is a week today. Honestly, I don't even want to think about that game right now. It just makes me feel ill thinking about it. But the whole phrase, again, on paper, is never really pans out that way, does it? So we'll have to wait and see. There's not going to be awful lots of ups and downs, I imagine, this weekend, as there always is. And I will talk about that game against Leeds in this video. Who might start? We'll have a look at the team news. I'll have a little bit of discussion about Hector Bellerin later on in this video. And like I said, I've got to talk about the Champions League before I come to the end of this video as well. So let's get going, shall we? Leeds United on Sunday. Big game for Arsenal. Big game for Leeds as well. As a matter of fact, they're still very much in the relegation picture at the moment. You know, a win for them would be huge. A win for Arsenal would be huge. There's an awful lot riding on this one today. Should be a real cracking game, cracking atmosphere at the Emirates. If Spurs do get beaten at Liverpool, which I think we all hope they do, but you never know. They've gone to Man City and won this season, so you can't rely on that whatsoever. But if they do, then you just imagine what the atmosphere is going to be like on Sunday. It is going to be electric in the penultimate home game of this season for Arsenal. So who can we see starting in at that game? Well, a lot of it obviously depends on the injury news. You've got Ben White, you've got Tomiyasu, Bukayo, Saka. All of those players have doubts. Two of them went off in terms of Tomiyasu and Saka against West Ham. Ben White didn't even play against West Ham because of the injury, sort of tight hamstring he sustained after the Man United game. So it all kind of depends on them. I'm expecting, I'd say as it stands, that all three of these players might well start for Arsenal at the weekend. You'd certainly say the biggest doubt will be Ben White, because hamstrings you don't want to take any issue with, and they'll be checking that all out as the week progresses at London Colney. Will be speaking to Mikel Arteta tomorrow at his press conference, which is at 2 o'clock. He will give us more of an update, I would say, on the progress of all three of those players. But I'm going to presume that all three are going to be fit and all right. And I'll talk about the team news a little bit later on in that. And I just can't see Arsenal making too many changes for this one. Yes, you got the Tottenham game on Thursday, and then you got Newcastle on the following Monday. So next week you might have to start sort of balancing things a little bit. But although saying that, you can't rest players against Tottenham. So I think you're going to go pretty much full strength. And if everyone is fit, I think the team now, with Tomiyasu back, you kind of know what you're going to get. There's obviously no Thomas Partey. There's no Kieran Tierney. We know that. Those two are both out injured. So you're going to have Ramsdale in goal. You have a back four of Tomiyasu. If White is available, it'll be White and Gabriel. Then you have Tavares at left back. I think, yes, there's a lot of concern about Tavares at the moment. And he wasn't great against West Ham last weekend again, but I think we're at the stage of the season now, apart from at the Tottenham game, where I fully expect Mikel Arteta to potentially make some changes to the system. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Arsenal play back three against Tottenham next Thursday night. But for this one against Leeds, I think it'll be a back four, and I think he'll stick with Nuno Tavares. So it'll be Tomiyasu, White, Gabriel, Tavares. It'll be Elneny and Xhaka will continue in midfield, both playing very well at the moment. So those two will start. I think Odegaard will definitely be number 10. Then if Saka's fit, he'll be right. I think Martinelli will keep his place on the left-hand side. And then you have Eddie Nketiah up front. I just can't see there's any way that Mikel's going to make any changes to that forward line at the moment. But you do have the option of Smith Rowe, obviously, on the left. But I think Martinelli will probably keep his place. I can't see Laka getting back in ahead of Eddie Nketiah. I spoke about Nketiah on the video yesterday. And I just can't see him losing his place now. But apart from if he gets an injury or a sending off or something like that, I think Nketiah starts every game between now and the end of the season. I'd be really surprised if we see Laka come back in. I think what Nketiah showed at the West Ham game last weekend, even though he didn't score, was just that little bit extra he is adding to the Arsenal attack at the moment, something that Lacazette just wasn't adding when he was in the team. And that is the ability to stretch defences, play on the counter, be able to play that ball into the channel for him to chase, to push defenders back, have them concerned about a player going off their shoulder rather than dropping deep and like Lacazette has been doing. So I think Eddie certainly starts. And so I don't see many changes from the starting 11. I think if everyone's fit between now and the end of the season, barring obviously Partey and Tierney, this is the kind of team, certainly in 3 out of the 4 games, I expect Arsenal to go with. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Arteta does something a little bit different for the Spurs game, especially if Arsenal probably only need a draw to kind of maintain a healthy gap between the two teams going into the last 2 matches. So that's who I think is going to start at the weekend, but you've got to caveat that with it. I think a lot of it depends on Ben White. If Arsenal won't take any risk with Ben White, and given that it's a hamstring injury, especially with the Tottenham game to come on Thursday night, if there's any doubt, then Holding keeps his place in the team. Holding was excellent against West Ham last weekend, scored a goal, played very, very well, especially in the second half, and I don't think Arteta will have any issue with playing Rob Holding again. So it's a strong position for Mikel to be in as well, and which is a good thing. Especially at this stage of the season. So that's who I think will start against West Ham. Team news-wise, I mean, like I said, the injuries are the big issues at the moment. From what I understand, I was speaking to someone sort of close to things yesterday, and all 3 of those sort of injury doubts are in and around London Colney at the moment. And I don't see, no one's away. Ben White's not away having any treatment or anything like that. Ben White's there and he's on the ground. I believe Tomiyasu and Saka have been training. I'm not 100% sure on Ben White, but I think Tomiyasu and Saka have been training. So I think those 2 are going to be fine. Ben White's the only major doubt. Like I said, we'll see what Mikel says at the press conference tomorrow, which will be at 2 o'clock at London Colney. Barring any other injuries that we don't know about that are being kept under wraps, Arsenal are pretty solid in terms of the team news, barring Thomas Partey and Kieran Tierney, who we know won't play again this season, or certainly Kieran Tierney won't. There's slight talk that Partey might be available, but I highly doubt it, as Mikel Arteta said yesterday. So that's the latest team news-wise. I mean, Leeds are missing some players. We know that. Stuart Dallas got that horrible injury at the weekend. So he's going to be out. I think there's a few other players who could potentially miss out for them. So they've got a few injuries. Certainly the Stuart Dallas absence is going to be big for them because he's a very important player for Leeds United and is pretty much a mainstay in that side. So they will be missing him. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Hector Bellerin, shall we? It's easy to forget that Hector's still an Arsenal player. Of course he is. He's only on loan at Real Betis. He's been there for the season now, coming towards the end of his season with Real Betis. Last month he helped them win the Copa del Rey. That's first time in 17 years that Betis have lifted silverware. Fantastic for Bellerin, fantastic for his family. They're all Betis fans. His dad's a big Betis fan. I saw the picture on the pitch that Bellerin took with him and his dad holding a trophy. I mean, really special. And that's why Bellerin went back to Real Betis. He'd kind of fallen out of love with football a little bit at Arsenal. It had all gone pretty stale for him. Obviously, fought back from the injury, wasn't playing that well. Things just weren't. He needed a change. He absolutely needed a change. I think we all knew that. He stayed for 1 extra year. He wanted to go the year before. He stayed because Mikel asked him to stay. He did that, and then last summer it was decided he could go back to Spain. But he's still got a year left on his Arsenal contract, so he's still an Arsenal player. Now, I've been speaking to people close to Bellerin about this, and my understanding of the situation is that Bellerin will not be coming back to Arsenal. I know Mikel Arteta was asked about it last week at the press conference, and he kind of said that he's contracted player, so we're going to prepare for him to be coming back to play for Arsenal next season, that there is the possibility, but I don't think there is. Obviously, if all the potential moves break down in the summer, then he'll have to come back because he is an Arsenal player and he's still got a year left in his contract. But from my understanding of it, everyone is working towards the idea that Bellerin will move permanently this summer. The first option is absolutely Real Betis. They are very happy with him. They've indicated to Bellerin that they want him to stay. They believe they can make the move permanent. They've got themselves European football next season, so they do have some money. They don't think it's going to cost an astronomical amount to tempt Arsenal into selling. I've seen somewhere people saying, "Oh, Bellerin, £15 million." They're not going to get £15 million for Hector Bellerin. I'd be stunned. I couldn't put a figure on what I think Arsenal will end up selling Bellerin for, but I don't think it'll be anything like that. I imagine it might be between 5 and 10 million euros potentially. We'll have to wait and see on that. He will have to take a wage cut, no doubt about it, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. He took a big wage cut this year just to get that loan move through, and I don't think he would be against doing that again just to kind of bring down the curtain on his Arsenal stay. Now, he wanted to go back to Spain. He made that clear during talks with Mikel Arteta last summer. And Arteta's not going to stand in his way. They've got a very good working relationship, those two. Bellerin's already talked publicly about it and showed his appreciation for what Arteta did last summer for allowing him to go back to Spain and kind of revitalise his football career. And he's having a very good season. I think he's played 30 odd games in all competitions. He's, like I said, he won the cup last month. Set up the goal for Betis in that cup final as well, with a really good cross which was headed in from the right. And I don't think anyone's going to begrudge Hector that. I love Hector Bellerin. I think he's been brilliant. It's been a privilege to watch him come through at Arsenal. His form dipped after the injury. There's no doubt about that. It wasn't the same Hector Bellerin that we saw before the injury. But I also think he'd just been in London for a long, long time. He was missing his home. He'd had everything that he went through during the injury. I think it took its toll mentally on Bellerin as well. And it just needed a change. He just needed to go and play his football somewhere else. He's done that. He's really enjoying himself. Betis are very, very happy with him. He's got a really good relationship with Pellegrini. And I think that will be a move that will be done in the summer on a permanent basis. And Hector Bellerin's time at Arsenal will come to an end. Okay, I just want to talk about the Champions League last night. Oh my God, what was that? What did we witness last night? Real Madrid just never know when they are done in this competition. How on earth have they got through to the final? It's just like mind-blowing. This reminds me of the Tottenham run. That run where they got to the final, where every single time you thought they were out, and then suddenly they got themselves back in. I'll never forget when it's Mora, wasn't it? When Mora scored that goal against Ajax in the injury time. I was watching it in a pub in Valencia because we were there for the Arsenal-Valencia semi-final in the Europa League, which was the night after. And I was watching it with a lot of the other journalists who were there. And honestly, I felt sick to my stomach when that goal went in. I was sitting there in my house. I couldn't even watch. I was so nervous. I just wanted Ajax to win so much. And then Tottenham got that goal in the last minute. I felt so sick, and I had all the journalists laughing at me. Oh, God, it was a horrible moment. I still felt ill the next morning when I woke up, and I just thought Tottenham were in the Champions League final. But anyway, I digress. That just this feels like, then it just felt like no matter what was happening, Tottenham were going to somehow find a way to get through. And it's exactly the same with Real Madrid this season. It's just been like, how did they get through against PSG? How did they get through against Chelsea? And how on earth did they get through last night? They didn't even have a shot on target until Rodrigo equalised in the 90th minute. And then they go and score again a minute later and then win it on penalties. I thought Man City certainly crumbled in extra time. I mean, they just kind of threw out their philosophy in that last 15 minutes. It was just lump it long, and it was kind of food and drink to Real Madrid. They dealt with it relatively comfortable, and you'd normally expect with Man City and a Guardiola side that they'd, no matter what was going on, they'd stick to their philosophy. They continued the pass and move, and it didn't happen. They just reverted to lumping the ball from deep, and it just made me laugh kind of watching that, thinking even those sort of teams at the very most tense moment, it just ends up with a centre-back going forward and everyone just lumping the ball in the hope that it might fall to someone in the box. But incredible drama, and you just watch those games this week, even the Villarreal, Liverpool, everything that was just brilliant as well. And you just watch that and you just think, oh God, Arsenal have got to get back in this competition. They're so close. They've got such a good opportunity. Now, I'm not saying that Arsenal are going to go and get into the semi-final next season, but you never know. Once you're there, aren't you? Anyone's got a chance. Who would have predicted Villarreal would have got to the semi-final this season? When Arsenal got to the final in 2006, they had their worst Premier League season for ages. They very nearly finished fifth that season. They were miles off it, and yet they got to the Champions League final without conceding a goal in the knockout stages. So once you're there, anything can happen. And I just watch these games and it just makes me think, Arsenal have absolutely got to get back there. I was talking to someone the other day. It was on a podcast, actually. It was between a few of us Arsenal journalists who cover the beat. It's called the Arsenal Beat. And if you haven't listened to it yet, you should subscribe in all your usual podcast places. And we were talking about it, and someone asked a question to me, like, would it be almost better for Arsenal to get Europa League rather than Champions League because they're not quite ready yet? It's like, no chance. You're there. You've got to take this opportunity now that it's there. And like I said, once you're in it, anything can happen. And yeah, just watching the madness that has gone on in the last sort of couple of weeks with these knockout ties in the semi-finals, it's just whet the appetite even more for Arsenal to get back in this competition, have a really good crack at it next season and see how they go. And if they win this weekend, then they will be only 3 games away from doing exactly that. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Apologies for a little bit of sort of going off pieced almost towards the end there. I just really wanted to talk about the Champions League because it was such a manic night of football last night. I will be at London Colney tomorrow for Mikel Arteta's press conference, so keep an eye peeled for all the usual stuff from there. It's 2 p.m. As I said, have a very good day. Enjoy the sunshine out there, and I will speak to you very, very soon.